Hello, imaginary friends. It's been a while, but we've all been writing a bunch of different stories, and today we're sharing one of them with you. It's called The Whistling Boy by me. Before we get into the story, make sure that you like and comment something about the story, and if you haven't already, if you could subscribe, that would be awesome. It will get us out there so more people can hear our stories.
The Whistling Boy. The sun's heat sucked the life out of Martin. He was accustomed to an air-conditioned climate, but his car's AC was broken, and he had no money to fix it, so rolling down the windows was the only option to fight the heat. And it wasn't helping one bit. The air was thick with exhaust. Martin could taste the bitter fumes. He shut his eyes against the bright sun. His drive home was due west, and he'd been stuck at this light for 3 full revolutions. The flickering fluorescent lights and his computer screens and his cubicle were like a dim candle to the outdoors. And his eyes never seemed to adjust to the sun. He longed to be home under his fluorescent lights and large-screen TV for whatever hours were left in the day. Martin rested against the headrest. Eyelids scrunched tight, sweat dimpling his forehead as more hot air blew in through the window. The light had at least another minute before turning green. A memory from what felt like hundreds of years ago drifted into his mind. Little League baseball. Maybe it was the warm sun or the smell of grass that cut through the suffocating exhaust, but Martin was transported back to the old dirt dugout of his childhood. The flavor of big league chew bubblegum danced on his tongue. The smell of sports drinks, voices of his friends, voices of the past, surrounded him. Naughty words and laughter mostly. He grinned at the brashness of their youthful ignorance. His younger days. His best days. Martin would have sat in the moment forever if the piercing whistle hadn't risen above the memory. It started quiet, but grew louder with every blow. There were no whistles in baseball, and that brought him back to his hot, uncomfortable car. His eyes shot open. The sun was blinding again. Why hadn't it blinded when he was a kid? Through squinted eyes, he found the whistler. Not a traffic cop or some rogue referee, but a boy on a bike. His chubby face was too big for his neck. His cheeks pulled the round shape to an oval, his belly hung over his shorts, and out from below his undersized striped shirt, his jean shorts broadcasted pale legs that gleamed in the sun. But it was his dark, never-blinking eyes that unnerved Martin, and they bored into him. A shadow grew over Martin. A sense of doom pressed down on his shoulders. Something was wrong with this boy. The whistler paused and grinned at Martin. After shutting his gaping mouth, Martin tried to act casual by looking off into the distance. A sneaky glance out of the corner of his eye found that the boy was still staring at him. Martin tried to ignore him, and was successful for all of 20 seconds, when the boy began blowing his whistle again. It pierced through every sound and rattled Martin's eardrums. He flinched, but the whistling continued without a break. Pain built in Martin's head. The boy's cheeks were red, puffed out. Veins stood out on his neck. His face was flushed, and his narrowed eyes screamed hate. Martin looked around to see if the drivers next to him were affected, but no one else seemed to notice the whistle or the boy. Martin covered his ears, but the whistle grew louder. He slid down his seat, like if he couldn't see the boy, the sound would stop, but it didn't. The pain grew, and Martin writhed in the seat. His foot slipped off the brake, and the car rolled forward. Martin slammed his foot down, and the car jerked to a stop. He thought of running the red light to escape the sound, when suddenly the whistling stopped. Martin sat straight up so he could see over the dashboard again. The boy was gone. Then the beeping started. The light had turned green. Martin sped away as the drivers behind yelled some unsavory things after him. Martin pulled into his driveway at 6:13. Food, bad-smelling food, greeted him at the door. From his chair, parked in front of the television in the living room, he explained to his wife that he was not hungry. She made a little fuss about the food, but then kept talking to him from the other room, asking about his day and telling him about the gossip she'd heard. But Martin wasn't in the mood. The conversation would always turn to the promotion, and he didn't want to tell her he'd been passed over again. After 15 minutes, she finally got the hint and cleaned up from dinner. Martin just wanted to be left alone for the remainder of the night. He wanted to escape the drudgery of his day, of his life. A whistle blew on the TV. Martin sat up It was some local commercial for something he had no interest in, but the whistle brought him right back to the traffic light. His hair stood on end, sweat broke out on his forehead, and a musty odor wafted from his pits. The piercing whistle brought back that boy's hateful stare. Martin's stomach flipped, the commercial ended, and the feeling of impending doom faded away. Martin switched from TV to playing video games. That always helped with forgetting stress. His wife ran around downstairs for a while and then retired to the bedroom to read a book. He didn't really know if that's what she was doing, though. He just knew that whatever she was doing, it was without him. A slight pang hit Martin's heart whenever she went to bed without him, even if it was what he wanted at the moment. Things hadn't always been this way. They used to be so close, best friends even, but things changed years ago. The change was subtle and gradual, and soon it became the norm, expected. There'd been many nights that Martin wanted to change things and go back to the way they were. Maybe get a dessert with her, or go on a walk, but playing his game was easier, and falling into that escape happened almost as soon as he started playing. They'll get better later, he told himself whenever the pang hit. When the promotion comes, or when something changes, things'll get better. The night progressed as normal, his wife asleep in bed and Martin asleep in his chair, free from any thoughts of the boy or his whistle. The next day went as usual. Shower, dress, coffee, little to no talking with his wife. But before he made it to the traffic-packed roads, Martin found himself in a standoff. He'd forgotten all about the boy until he was backing out of his driveway. There, in the rear-view mirror, sat his old bike on the sidewalk across the street. Martin spun and stared with his mouth agape. The whistle flashed in the morning light around the boy's neck, and a smile grew across his pudgy face. Martin panicked. He slammed the gas pedal. His tires screamed first as he backed up and then as he tore out of his neighborhood. But before he could make it out, the piercing whistle attacked his ears. He couldn't focus all day. How'd that kid found him? Why was he blowing a whistle? The whole situation was just so weird. At lunch he almost shared it with a co-worker. John? Didn't matter. He backed out, fearing what he may think. Martin watched the clock, dreading the end of day. What would happen if he saw the boy again? Just thinking about it made his heart race. Before the clock reached 4:45, Martin was collecting his things and ducking out of the office. As he fumbled with his car keys, he lost grip on the briefcase, and his papers scattered everywhere. He cursed under his breath and chased the loose papers. As he did, a rhythmic buzzing grew louder and louder. It sounded like a fake motorcycle. When Martin was young, he and his friends would tape or pin or rubber band old playing cards to their back bike tires and pretend to be a motorcycle gang. His friends would sometimes use their favorite players, but not Martin. He strictly used flakeouts or busts for his motors. The cards would bend or get soggy when they'd ride through wet grass or rain. The noise gave him a moment of joyous nostalgia, and then sudden dread, because he'd seen who'd made the noise. The whistle boy pulled into the parking lot. Martin's hand hovered in midair, filled with that week's TPS report. The boy dismounted, but he held the bike up by the handlebars. An irrational fear flooded Martin. This boy was no more than 12 years old, probably closer to 11, but the sight of him filled Martin with so much fear he was unable to move. It was that smile, that god-awful, wide, pudgy smile. It was something so familiar, something he'd seen, experienced before, and it held him rooted like a tree. The boy enjoyed it. He enjoyed tormenting. "Why me?" Martin said, too quiet for the boy to hear. The boy licked his lips and raised the whistle to his fat, pursed lips. "No!" Martin croaked. The high-pitched screech filled the air. The pain was immediate and intense. Martin covered his ears to no avail. He stumbled to his car. The boy kept blowing the whistle. Martin fumbled with his keys, but got the car started. He tore out of the parking lot and into the street, barely missing two passing cars. He righted himself and continued down the road. Problem was, the whistling didn't fade. It rang through the car, and the pain doubled, then tripled. "How is this possible?" he cried. The pain was so intense, Martin almost hit another car. He sped up, but the whistle continued ringing through his car. Martin checked the back seat, checked the mirror, but the boy was not there. Only the piercing whistle. Martin screamed. He was at the end of his sanity. Suddenly, it stopped. Martin slammed on the brakes. Birds, the wind, and even passing cars never sounded so sweet. In the midst of the wonderful sounds, the car behind him beeped. Martin collected himself and pulled his car to the shoulder. Every thought circled him like vultures, ready to tear him apart. Nothing like this had ever happened, and he couldn't explain it. He heard cheering and laughing. He was parked next to a baseball field. That calmed him. He sat still for some time just listening, allowing his mind to wander into the good memories of when he used to play ball. He was beginning to feel more like himself. "I'm having a breakdown," Martin said to himself, but he felt okay. Being here at the baseball park, he felt normal. The sun dipped low, and Martin decided it was time to go home. And if that kid was there, he felt good enough to give him a piece of his mind. He pulled his car into drive, but when he drove down the main street, the boy was waiting for him on the corner. Martin slammed on the brakes again, and the boy took a deep breath and blew. The pain was immediate. Martin pulled a U-turn to escape, but when he got to the park again, the whistling stopped. He checked his mirror. The boy was still there, and blowing the whistle. Martin pulled off the road and into the parking space and threw the car into park. He waited for something, anything, to happen. The whistle didn't return. Martin could see the boy from where he was parked, but he wasn't about to leave again. Some people gave him a strange look, and Martin thought to get out of the car and walk around rather than just sit in his car next to a park. There was a paved path that snaked round the baseball field where a team was practicing. The path also rounded a small park with slides and swings and benches, so he decided to make his way there. The peace was refreshing, welcoming. The wind cooled any heat the sun hurled down. The air was filled with sweet scents, cut grass, warmed pine nettles, oiled leather gloves. Martin let it all wash over him. He sat at the first bench he could and shut his eyes. This felt like home, or returning home after a long trip. His muscles relaxed and he took slow, deep breaths. He wondered if the boy could even come to this place. He would have fallen straight to sleep on that bench in the middle of the park if his brain wasn't firing off so many memories and forgotten hopes. After some time of swimming in the deep sea of nostalgia, Martin felt someone close. The presence was like that of the whistle boy, but only in there-ness, not in malice. Martin opened his one eye a crack. It was a boy, but a very young one with brown hair and deep green eyes. "Hello," Martin said. "What are you doing here?" the boy asked with narrowed eyes, but not unkindly. "I don't know," Martin said with a chuckle. "Did you come to go down this slide?" "No," Martin said with a smile. But when he thought about it, he kinda did want to go down the slide. "Why not?" Martin was caught off guard by the boy's candor and didn't have an answer. "The slide is fun. You ever been down a slide before?" "Of course I have." "Did you like it?" "Sure." "Then why don't you go on the slide now?" "Because it would be weird." "Mister, you sitting alone at a park is weird." Martin scoffed. Kids had no filter. "Yeah, but me going down a slide that I'm 2 sizes too big for would be much weirder." "Well, my dad slides down the slide when he comes down with me, and that's not weird." I'm not a dad, though." The boy frowned. "Why not?" "Don't you have people to play with?" "No. Why don't you have kids?" Martin sighed and looked around for help, a parent, but nobody paid him any attention. "I don't know. My wife and I never got around to it." "That's too bad." "How would you know?" Martin said, more to himself, but the boy answered, "Well, my mama says having kids help parents find the child inside them." "Sorry, but your mama's wrong. Nobody wants adults to act like kids." "I don't think acting like a kid is finding a kid inside you." Martin crinkled his face. "What do you—" Just then an old man with a cane limped to the bench. "All right, Jason. Run along and stop bothering this young man." "Okay." Jason slid down from the bench. "See you later, mister." Martin waved the boy away. Jason ran with so much joy, something rose in Martin that told him to run too. It was a freedom to play or do anything he wanted, but he pushed it away. The old man sat with a loud sigh that only old men can get away with. "Look at them," he said. "Yep, not a care in the world," Martin said, still dwelling on the boy's words. "You look like you have too many," the old man said with a laugh. "Cares, that is." Martin chuckled, but not as freely as the old man. "What do you do for work?" the old man asked. "Oh, I work in finance. Yeah, nothing special. What do you mean? It's just not what I wanted to... He didn't know why, but he was ready to pour his heart out to this old man, but he stopped himself. I wanted to do something different. Like what? I don't know, something that mattered, I guess, or something exciting. The old man smiled. I would say that many people depend on you. Finances are important. Martin shrugged. Doesn't feel like it. Huh. Did you have dreams when you were young? You mean like me being naked in front of my whole school? The old man laughed. No, nothing like that. I mean, what did you want to accomplish in life? I don't know. Yes, you do. What was it? Typically, when someone asked personal questions, Martin would make an excuse to end the conversation. But this one felt different. It felt good. So he answered. Well, when I was really young, I wanted to play baseball. Shortstop for the Yankees. He could hear the crowds cheering. I wanted to play under the lights, travel to all the ballparks, hear the roar of the crowd. Many kids got that dream, the old man said. Yeah, well, it worked out for some of them. That was the end of dreaming for me. Why? Because it didn't turn out? Martin shrugged. I guess. Is that when you stopped enjoying life? Martin frowned and side-eyed the man. I meant no offense, the old man said, throwing up his hands. I just see young people so burnt out and lost. I want to help them. I'd like to help you. What, are you a therapist? If that helps you to open up, sure. The man gave a kindly chuckle. Instead of a couch, we've got a bench. If you make me lay down and ask my opinions on Oedipus, I'm gone. The two laughed. Martin cleared his throat. I guess I grew up too fast or something. What do you mean? Lost my enjoyment of everything. He let out a long sigh. Nothing went the way I thought it would or how I wanted it to. The old man nodded knowingly. Your story's nothing new. You could throw a dart anywhere on a map and find someone whose dream didn't come true, or life didn't turn out the way they wanted it. And that's okay. Martin shook his head and scoffed. Easy for someone else to say. Well, you still got a life, don't you? You still got a purpose. Maybe it's not the one you wanted or thought you'd have, but you still have one. The man paused, waiting for a reply, but since Martin was thinking, he went on. What's your purpose now that what you wanted didn't happen? Everyone has one. Much like life, no two purposes are the same, and sometimes it changes. Martin was quiet. Not to end the conversation, he was thinking about his purpose. Maybe you don't know what it is. What gets you out of bed in the morning? Well, work? No. That's not your purpose. That's your job. What drives you to go to that job? I have to pay my bills? Still not a purpose. Martin stammered, but every answer he thought of sounded weaker than the last. I will take that as you do not know your purpose. The old man tapped his cane on the ground. And that's okay. At least someone finally told you that you have a purpose, even if your dreams didn't work out. The old man laughed, not in a cruel way. Life is what you make it. It can be a series of sufferings without purpose. Or you can find meaning in everything. Especially the suffering. Martin scoffed. I can't believe I'm talking about this with a stranger. He rubbed the top of his head. It's only because... He stopped short. Go on, the old man said. You wouldn't believe me. You'd be surprised. Sometimes the ear of a stranger is easier to speak to than the closest loved one. I suspect it's because there would be less judgment. Also, I'm an old man. Who cares what I think? Martin rubbed his eyes. His brain was screaming not to tell him or anyone about the whistling boy. But he had to, or he might burst. There was no one else offering to listen. Okay, well, I'm sort of having a breakdown, I think. I'm being followed. No, tortured by thoughts and memories and sounds. The old man thought for a moment. What do you think it means? Martin shook his head. Nothing. Or maybe a lot. I don't know. Well, that sounds like something you need to think about. I'll leave you to it. Yeah, thanks for... Martin stopped short. Something inside the old man's blazer flashed. It was a silver whistle. Tingles ran up and down Martin's scalp. His wide eyes searched the old man for a hint of a joke or a prank, but the old man only smiled kindly. Oh, this old thing? The man held the whistle up. I used to be a referee, and I'd blow this whenever a foul happened. Kinda got the kids back on track. The old man sighed. I haven't had to use it for some time. Well, it was a pleasure meeting you, son. The old man reached out his hand to shake. His smile was so genuine and his eyes were so kind. Martin took his hand and shook. Martin watched the old man walk over to his grandson. You want to go down the slide, Grandpa? The old man laughed and twirled his cane. Why not? Martin stayed on that bench until the sun went down. He mustered up all his courage to leave, but first, after everyone had left, he climbed the playground to the biggest slide and went for a ride, laughing all the way down. Martin pulled out of the park and drove slowly down the streets until he finally spotted the boy standing on the same street corner. He looked furious. Martin pulled up next to him. No words were said, but Martin nodded his head to acknowledge the boy, and the boy tapped the whistle in return. The car rumbled down the street, leaving the boy behind. Martin watched him through the rearview mirror until he turned off the main drive. He went home that night and spoke to his wife, really spoke with her for the first time in a long time. There were tears, smiles, and laughs. The road to repairing a friendship is long and difficult. The road to repairing a romance is treacherous, with many pitfalls, but those who make it to the end all agree that it is the trip worth taking. 10 years later, Martin sat at the light just outside his workplace. He'd been waiting there for 3 revolutions. His windows were rolled down because of his AC still being broken. He was still overlooked for the promotion, but there was something different about Martin. His smile. You excited about the first practice? Martin slid on a baseball cap and looked in the mirror to the back seat where a boy sat, where his son sat. He wore a baseball uniform and fiddled with his baseball mitt. Yeah, Dad. Coach. Martin smiled and readjusted his cap. Dad? The boy asked cautiously. Yeah? What if I'm no good? Martin turned in his seat. What do you mean? You're great. We practice all the time together. I know, but what if I stink? What if I'm not the best? What if I don't even make the team? Buddy, you'll make the team. I'm the coach. The boy nodded, but he was still fiddling with the mitt. Hey, the boy looked up. You are more than just a baseball player. You're my son. And I love you for just existing. His boy kind of rolled his eyes a little, but Martin could tell he was getting to him. Listen, you have friends, don't you? Yeah? Well, then you're a friend too. And you have a dog. That dog would have a miserable life without you. Martin smiled. You think Mom would play with him like you do? A small, reluctant smile came to his son's face. Do you? Huh? Do you? Martin played and poked at his son. His son laughed. Nah, of course she wouldn't. See, your worth in life far surpasses your worth in baseball. So if you want to play baseball, try your hardest, play the best you can, but don't let it define you if you're the greatest or not. Okay, the boy said. A ghost of a smile was on his face, and he wasn't fidgeting with the baseball mitt any longer. Hey, Dad? Yeah, buddy. The light's green. Oh! Martin spun around and pulled through the intersection, heading for the baseball park.
You've made it to the end. Congratulations. I thank you very, very much. I would love to know any of your thoughts, so if you haven't commented, please comment now and let me know what you thought of the story. I'd love to hear any thoughts, good, bad, whatever. I want to know. The whole reason why we have this podcast is to grow, is to be better writers, and to get published, obviously. So if you're into that kind of thing and you haven't subbed yet, please subscribe, share it with a friend who is looking to get published, or share it with people who love stories. We have a bunch of new stories coming out, so please stay tuned. And until then, bye.